Welcome to Inside the Blueprint, the conversation where we trace ideas back to their first sketch and follow them into the real world impact. I am Carl Manlan, and every episode we uncover the frameworks that turn vision into change.
Hi, I'm Claire, Carl's daughter, your 13-year-old co-host, the one who's here to make sure the grown-ups' ideas stay understandable for all of us. I'm really excited to welcome today's guest, Lara Hussein, co-founder of Waste Lab.
Thanks, Claire. Lara Hussein is a co-founder of a Waste Lab, a Dubai startup that turns everyday kitchen scraps into healthy soil, new jobs, and a cleaner planet. With 15 years of global experience in tech-enabled solution and customer strategy, she is now applying the expertise to one of the region's biggest environmental challenges, food waste. Lara, we're honored to have you with us on Inside the Blueprint.
Thank you for having me. Super excited to be here. And very nice to meet you, Claire, as well.
Before we start, if this podcast resonates with you, hit subscribe, leave a comment, and share it with someone who needs to hear it.
Every listen keeps us having these conversations across generations about things that really matter.
We are building something meaningful here, and we are glad you are part of it.
All right, let's get into it. Nice to meet you too.
So, really, one of the things that is important for us to understand, was there a specific moment when you realized that this is my work? This is where I need to focus.
Yeah. I mean, I believe it was a culmination of different moments, but the turning point for me was during COVID. The Waste Lab, you can say, is a COVID baby. I was in lockdown in 2020 with my co-founder right now, Jaylan. We were locked down in the same apartment in Dubai. And, everything was at a standstill. The world just stopped. Everyone was paralyzed. We were all in our homes. And it gave us a moment to slow down, think of bigger things than us, and really try to understand why something like this actually happened. And for us, the direct answer was nature. Something was not going well in nature. And unfortunately, we were the cause of it. And in parallel, in Dubai, you do a lot of food deliveries, right? And because of the lockdown, we started cooking more and more every day. And unfortunately, with that, we had a lot of food scraps. So what did we do with it? We tried to find ways to recycle, just like we recycle plastic, metal, and glass. When it came to our food scraps, the fruit peels, seeds, all these things, we only had the garbage chute to throw everything there. And we knew what this meant, that everything was going to landfill. And it just didn't make sense to us. We understood that there needs to be some change. Just like we have a solution for recyclables, why not we create value of food, which is super, super important. We import up to 90% of our food here. And we understood that we throw almost half of it in landfill without really thinking the impact of it. And I guess between this realization and a lot of conversations Jaylan and I had, something just sparked in us. And we said, this is a problem that we have, food waste. But on the other side, we live in a desert. And the desert here, for many people, is dead. There's no life in it. But for us, no. It's just a different form of nature than where we come from Lebanon or Turkey or from South Africa. And we said, let's use a problem, which is food waste, to create a solution for the soil. And this is where the Waste Lab came.
When you were my age, did you think about sustainability, or was it something you learned about later?
So ever since I was a kid, I loved animals. I was a super curious child. Like every summer, I would go to the mountains, to my family house. Everyone would be playing on their, PlayStation and video games. I would go out in nature and just spend time with animals there. There was a small farm. There were chicken, goat, sheep, and some cats. And for me, this love of nature is part of sustainability because I felt connected as a child. I understood the value of taking care of nature. And this curiosity about how we can take care of something so important, which we are part of, we're not separate from nature, we are nature, I think was the beginning of my understanding of how important, let's say, sustainability is. But for me, as a kid, it was nature and the love of animals and the curiosity about it.
This is deep. Can we dig deeper?
Yes.
Waste, nature, a 13-year-old or younger person thinking about nature as an analogy of sustainability. Was there something else from your parents, from your grandparents that really made you think that this is something that you want to focus on when you get older?
I mean, I can think of my grandparents. Like the concept of waste, especially when it came to food, did not really exist. First of all, we bought, in terms of food, what we needed. We didn't go to supermarket and just put, kgs of fruits and vegetables. We just got what we needed. And we cooked, my grandmother cooked, and every time leftovers, it happens, she found creative ways to repurpose them and to make another dish. Or she forced us to eat. Like, we were not allowed to leave the table without finishing, because she told us, first of all, there are a lot of poor people who don't have food on their table. We are very lucky. But then again, waste did not make sense to her. This is from food, but we also, from clothes, from other things, nothing really went to the bin. And I guess this is part of their upbringing, and these are values that they really brought to us. And something else as well, my neighbors were both university professors, and they had a big library of National Geographic magazine.
Amazing.
And, I used to just love to go there and spend time whenever I could just opening these National Geographic magazines and going over them. And I think this gave me just kind of a library to really read more and more. And as a curious child, I always wanted to learn more. So I think I can give them some tribute also to my learning from this small thing that they offered me as a child as well.
Now you know why I push you to read.
As much as we want to help sustainability, it's hard. What kind of advice can you give people?
One thing is, be curious, ask questions. Really, because when you buy a banana, you see it's coming maybe from Ecuador or Philippines, just ask questions. Like, first of all, where is it coming from? And then for it to come here, how many thousands of kilometers it crossed to reach here? And before that, who created this banana? Which farm? What did this farm need to grow this banana? So ask, and then when you want to throw the banana, like let's say you ate the banana and you have the peel, where is this going? Just be curious and ask questions, because when you internalize this information, I believe it creates change rather than just taking things at a surface level. Like when we throw something, it's like out of sight, out of mind. Let's not have this kind of mentality. Let's try to ask questions and find answers. Ask your father. Ask me. Go into the internet. There's a lot of things. Or just ask your teacher. And maybe if she doesn't have the answer, it will trigger her to find the answer and give you this. And another thing is, just start anywhere. Like, all of us want to be perfect in what we do, right? But we don't have to, especially when it comes to sustainability and giving back. Just start from somewhere. And it doesn't have to be perfect. And just know you're not alone. It's a culmination of different people trying to do something good. And this is what really matters at the end.
What I really enjoyed about the work that you've been doing is when we went to visit the farm. I actually got into trouble that day because I booked for us to go and see it on Mother's Day. And I got into trouble. But, in the end, it was a beautiful experience because we learned a lot. The thing that fascinated me the most was the temperature.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. So what happened inside the waste lab?
So your temperature, you mean in terms of compost pile temperature?
Yes, exactly.
So yes, like they always ask us here, like, we are in such a hot climate. We are in a desert. How the hell can you do composting here? Like, because in their head, like, a desert again is some place that you cannot do anything in. But actually, the beauty of composting and the beauty of nature is composting and nature create an ecosystem for itself. When you have the right mix between the food waste that we're putting and the brown material coming from dry leaves, wood chips, you create this ecosystem for nature to thrive. Because when you mix these two elements, it invites different microorganisms like bacteria, fungi, and some ants come, some spiders come from the desert. And with this ecosystem, this creates the heat that goes and the temperature that happens inside this compost pile. And it doesn't get affected with the outside temperature. It's just a perfect system that works together. And this is what we're trying to show people. Like, if you have the right elements, nature does its job. You don't have to rush it. You don't have to interfere a lot. Just make sure that some things are working properly in the beginning with a bit of maintenance, and then magic happens.
So how long does it take? Because we're in a world where we love instant
Yes.
gratification.
Yes.
And this one is teaching us about delayed gratification. So how long does it take, this whole process?
So on average, for the food to decompose and become this beautiful soil-like structure of a compost, it takes between 6 to 8 weeks. And why not? Right? Everything is rushed in our life and doesn't always bring good results. This is nature's perfect system. Like, nature has wisdom of billions of years. And it has perfected our system, our natural world. So why do we need to rush it? Because if we rush it, and we see some technologies out there that are trying to say we can do compost in 24 to 48 hours, the end result is not compost. It's actually something that is harmful, that needs more time for it to stabilize than doing things with nature from the beginning. So I just, like, for me, when I go to the farm and I see things are slow, I feel more balanced. I feel more grounded. And I truly respect what nature is giving us. So we don't really need to rush everything. We've already rushed everything in our lives. And we saw that the end result is not always positive. Why not slow down? And it's not actually slowing down. It's just respecting nature's timeline and let it flourish and really give us what it needs to give us.
So what would be your dream for when for the waste lab when I'm like an adult?
To be honest, the waste lab not to exist, because we are trying to solve a problem, which is food waste. And later on, like in, let's say, 10 years, I don't want food waste to be a problem anymore, right? Just this issue, like, first of all, waste to be eliminated. We have this perfectly circular way of dealing with food that doesn't reach a point that it's waste. And I would love the waste lab to go more into the regeneration of the soil. Because, to be honest, this is my main passion, taking care of the soil. Because you know what? We have around 60 years of harvest in the world from the soil. So soil really needs our attention and our care and all our effort. So once we can look more into taking care of the soil, doing these regenerative agricultural practices, this is my dream. That we have regeneration in our daily life, in our soil, in our farming methods, and in our food. So no need for the waste lab anymore. We shift, we evolve. This is how as human beings we evolve. So why we also evolve our startup into something that's even more beautiful and that really tackles the main issues we have, which is soil.
So I have a 10-year-old son who's not in this room. How would you explain regeneration to him?
Okay. So regeneration basically is taking something that isn't working anymore and fixing it. As simple as that. Let's say right now, we talk a lot about sustainability. Sustainability is such a buzzword. But to be honest, I'm sick of this word, because what sustainability means is taking things the way they are and keeping them the way they are. But the system is not working. We don't want to keep the system the way it is. So when you regenerate, you change the system into something that is better, that does not create waste, that does not use unneeded resources, that creates a full circle, a perfect circle. And once we achieve this, then we can talk about sustaining this way of living and regeneration.
Did you understand?
Yes.
So Claire touched on sort of looking forward and the fact that when she's an adult, the waste lab should no longer be. 5 years from now, knowing what we know today and knowing what we don't know tomorrow, where would you want the waste lab, your baby, your COVID baby, to be?
Okay, so I want, first of all, let's talk about the UAE. I want every household to separate their organic waste.
Okay.
Right now, we do a lot of effort to separating our plastic, metal, glass, and we're doing not bad job. We're getting better, but food should not be waste anymore. We have a different bin for it. Every household, every business, every community, everywhere needs to have a bin dedicated for our food. If it cannot be donated, whether for people or animals, let's separate it and bring it back to the soil. Because we need as much help as we can get, especially here in this environment that is arid, that we don't have enough water, it's dry, and that is always seeking to create local resources. If we want to create local resources, if we want to have more agriculture, more farms, let's be less dependent on imports, be self-sufficient in terms of our food, we need to tackle soil. Yes, there are other solutions out there. I'm not saying soil is the only solution. There's vertical farming, hydroponics, which are great, but soil is the foundation of everything. Because when we take care of our soil here, we're also taking care of our food. And when we take care of our food, we take care of our health. Because the biome of the soil, all the bacteria, is what goes into our gut. So if it's balanced there, it's also balanced here, which means we don't need all the medication, all that, and we don't have all these health issues that we have because of this broken system again. It's like with medication, we're just trying to put a bandage on the problem rather than solving the problem from the root. So I'd really like us to see food as a resource, not a waste, and use this resource to bring it back to the soil through composting, by working with nature. What I'd like to see in 5 years in the UAE is for people to separate their food waste, not see it as waste. Just like we do a lot of effort separating our plastic, metal, glass, why not have a bin dedicated for food? First of all, let's see if we can donate it for people, for animals as animal feed. If we cannot, anything that is inedible, we separate it in a specific bin, in a designated bin, and from there, try to find solution, whether you can compost in your backyard, in your balcony, or push your community to have a small composting station to do this change from food waste to compost and to bring it back to the soil. I just want this food waste concept to disappear and find ways to bring it back to the soil, because we really need to help the soil here and change the system and really support our food security. So food security is making sure that we are not dependent on importing everything from outside. Actually have our local farms, local agriculture, local food. And just like we have also hydroponics and vertical farming as ways to grow our food, we need our soil as our foundation. Because with healthy soil, we have healthy food. And with healthy food, we also have healthy bodies. So yeah, that's what I'd like to see.
So I have a question. What are hydroponics?
So basically, hydroponics and vertical farming is a way of farming without any soil.
Okay.
So basically, you have a growing medium, mostly from water. And for this water, you add the nutrients that go into the water, and then these nutrients go into the plant.
Okay.
So you are not reliant on soil to grow your food. This is great, and we have some here in the UAE growing leafy greens, strawberries, blackberries, blueberries, tomatoes. However, this is not the only solution, because soil is not just for growing food. Like I said, it has the microorganisms that will not survive in the water. And these microorganisms, when we eat the food grown in them, in the soil that has them, it goes into our bodies. And these are beneficial microorganisms for our gut and for our health.
What's one small thing anyone can do this week to reduce waste?
So to reduce food waste, try to be mindful about, first of all, what you're buying. Like, for example, when I go to the supermarket hungry, I always buy more than I want to buy and more than I can consume. All of it. So this is one thing. Like, when you want to go to the supermarket, try not to go hungry. This is something small. Another thing is, if you have extra food, you try to eat as much as you can, but you still have good leftover food, don't throw it away. Either give it to someone. Maybe I usually go to my security person of the building and give him the food. At least I know he would appreciate it and it will not go to waste. Or try to have a fun weekend with your family. Try to find creative ways to repurpose these leftovers. Because, every food that you save, it's not just about landfill and the greenhouse gas emissions, methane, carbon dioxide. You're also respecting the farmer's work to grow the food. All the energy, all the water, all the soil, all the transportation effort that has gone into this. And you're respecting nature. Like, it has put so much effort to bring this food on your table. It just doesn't make sense that if just you don't want to eat it, you just throw it blindly. So just take a moment, think about all this, and try to find ways, simple ways. Doesn't have to be something big, not to throw. And if you have to throw, come to us. We will try to help you and do something for that.
There's one thing you said earlier around the definition of sustainability that we have, and I think can you expand a little bit on that? Because today it's true that sustainability is used and maybe at some point abused as well.
Mm-hmm.
What would be a better definition? Or maybe a different word. I mean, you could have talked about the regenerative that you mentioned, so that this 13-year-old, when she speaks to her peers, they start to think about it maybe differently.
Okay. I mean, for me, it's always about nature. Nature doesn't just need to mean going to a forest or having something that looks beautiful all the time, flowery, lush. For me, going back to nature, this is sustainability. Because, again, like we, as human beings, we have intelligence, we have consciousness, which some animals, we are now discovering that they do have it as well. But we think we are superior to nature. And we put this distance. Like we are saving nature. We are saving the planet. But no, nature doesn't need saving. We are saving ourselves. Because at the end of the day, if we don't respect nature and really work with her, we will not exist anymore. Nature and the natural world will continue to exist, but we will not. So really, we are saving ourselves. And this separation between us and nature should not happen because we are nature. It's not us and the other. So for me, sustainability is basically unlearning some things that we think that serve us as humankind, and that, as you said before, we want to achieve things faster.
Yeah.
It's the age of being fast. But why? Like, let's just go back to what nature has perfected through billions of years. We wouldn't have existed without all her effort. And unlearn some things that don't serve us just because we wanted to maybe make me ends meet or prove something, and learn all her wisdom. Like, when you take a bunch of soil, the amount of microorganisms in this handful of soil is more than the population of humankind.
Oh, wow.
Just this handful. But do we know this?
I didn't.
And what we know about this is less than 1%. And we always try to think of a plan B. If we cannot live here, we want to go to Mars. But how can we learn about something so far away if we don't really understand what's under our feet? What's in the soil? So, again, to simplify things, sustainability for me, again, is going back to nature, understanding how she works. And I'm not saying to remove technology from the picture, because what does technology mean? It's something that enables something.
Correct.
But for us, we understand technology as this shiny, bright object that does things fast. But that's not what really that the word means. It's just an enabler to facilitate things. So combining tech with nature while respecting her timeline and learning from her is what sustainability means for me.
Maybe I can ask you a question. What did you learn?
Oh, yes.
Today I learned about how it's not just about, oh, I recycle and stuff, but it's like, just because you recycle it doesn't mean that it's gonna make a difference, because it could be like, oh yeah, I recycle plastic, but you don't know where it's going. Like, it could be going to a landfill, or it's just not like being actually recycled. So if you like dig deeper and ask, where could this actually go, then like you could make a difference, or just by doing small things, it could make a difference in the next years.
It's been great to think about sustainability from the perspective of entrepreneurship. Because when we think about entrepreneurship nowadays, it's very much focused on tech.
Yeah.
Whereas there are simpler things in life that really make a difference. So through the Waste Lab, you're helping us to rethink how communities for centuries have been part of a circular economy. That's one, which I think is important. The second one is really starting to really think about the value chain of what we find on our table. And if we can find them closer to us, even better. And I noticed, we've been living now in the UAE for the past 4 years. And I saw the strawberries coming, I saw the tomatoes coming, and we make a point to actually get those ones, because it's our own way of using the resources that we have to support those local and small businesses that are here. The third point, which I think you sort of really put it beautifully, is sustainability has become a commodity.
Yeah.
So how do we really go to what our grandparents has taught us? And your experience of your grandmother feeding you has been the same for me growing up in Abidjan. And even for Claire, it's something similar with her grandfather, about focused on what you have and really what you have. And how do you make the most out of it? So these 3 points really what I take away from this conversation. And ultimately is, how do we help this generation to not make the same mistakes that we are making at the moment?
Yeah, because at the end of the day, they're going to have to bear the mistakes that we did. And they're going to have to solve a lot of problems. We're giving them a lot of problems to solve, unfortunately. But what I see is you also have a lot of awareness, which we didn't have.
Absolutely.
And you have exposure to knowledge and to solutions, which we didn't have. Speaking with my nieces, to other students, I see a lot of potential and a lot of passion and a lot of curiosity as well about going back to basics. So I'm really hopeful, to be honest, and we are here to support you and give you all the knowledge that we've been trying to accumulate. And if you want to come join us at the Waste Lab as an intern one day, we'd love to have you as well.
Yeah, you go. You have your first job.
So, Claire, I have a question for you. So let's say after our podcast today, you go and see your best friend. What is one thing that you would tell her that you learned today, or that you want to change in your everyday life, let's say? So maybe she can also join you on this and you can do it together.
Not to eat more than, not to have eyes bigger than your stomach. Because sometimes if you, for example, go to a restaurant, then you order more than you think you can actually eat, then you end up wasting a lot of it. And even if you take it home, sometimes you don't end up eating it. So then it just gets thrown away because it's not good anymore. So rather order something small, eat it, then see if you can have any more space, and then order if you want more, and then...
Perfect. And you know that, and this is perfect because most of the food waste that happens comes from us as consumers, not from the supermarket, not from the farm. 60% of food waste comes from us. So if we do these small changes, imagine how much impact we can make together. Great.
Wow. So the next time we go to a restaurant, I'll watch.
Well, enough with all that.
Thank you. Lovely.
Thank you so much for coming.
Happy to be here. Thank you, Cam.
Thank you for listening to Inside the Blueprint. We hope this conversation gave you something new to think about.
If you enjoyed these episodes, there's more where that came from. Tap on videos to catch other episodes. Each one explores a different part of a bigger picture.
A new episode drops next week, so hit that subscribe button and we'll see you soon.
And until then, keep building, learning, and asking better questions.
Bye.